Well, it's another dazzling sunrise to greet the day here in Death Valley. It's 6:30 a.m. and it's already almost 90 degrees. It will probably be another day over 110 under the high noon sun. It's been days since we left civilization. We haven't seen another person or vehicle in that whole time. Will we finally find our way out of this blazing landscape? Or will we become just another part of it, melting into the collective memory of the desert? Whoa, wait a second. How did we get here? Well, let me start at the beginning. We got married. September 19th, 2020. We couldn't have asked for better. Despite the pandemic and even losing our reception venue less than 2 days before the wedding, the day turned out perfect, like magic. But these videos are about what comes after, the first day of the rest of our lives. Our plan for our honeymoon was to travel cross-country, yes, still in the middle of a pandemic, and back. Route 66 was to be a large portion of our trip, with some overlanding in the Mojave Desert and Death Valley thrown in for good measure. If we can make it through the next 3 weeks, we can make it forever. And we're off on our honeymoon adventure. We did pretty much blast through Pennsylvania, trying to get to Route 66. We did make one stop late in the day at Lake Erie, though. It is impressive. It's huge. It looks like the ocean. From there, we crossed into the heartland. Welcome to Ohio. Wheat and cornfields for miles and miles. We took a random side road and came upon the Swartz Bridge, built in 1879 with a 96-foot span across the Sandusky River in Wyandotte County. Now this is country. A lazy day by the river. And then you've got this. We hunked. We found a very nice campground in Delaware, Ohio to spend the night. It looked like they were already decorated for Halloween. Very spooky vibe after dark. We had dinner and went for a walk around the campground just before turning in for the night. This was the first real night of sleeping in the Jeep, and it worked out great. The next morning, we got up early to get on the road. Crossing the bridge out of the campground, we were greeted with the otherworldly sight of a wispy mist rising and curling pillars out of the Alum Creek. Maggie started to get suspicious as just 5 minutes from the campground, we found a Waffle House. And we were on the road again. A couple of hours later, we found ourselves crossing the state line into Indiana. By the way, Indiana is only around 140 miles across. We also want to say thank you to the farmers of America. We feel like we have personally driven by each and every farm. Lots and lots and lots of cornfields and windmills. And just like that, we were in Indiana and on our starting point for Route 66. In some cities, Route 66 becomes a continuous line of motels, restaurants, and gas stations. Thus, competition gives birth to the Muffler Men, the giant fiberglass-built advertising characters that will quickly become, and remain, emblems of Route 66. One of the most iconic is the green astronaut called the Gemini Giant in Wilmington, Illinois, standing guard outside of the Launching Pad fast food restaurant. The restaurant had been closed down, but recently it's undergone renovations under a new owner and is open once again. Well, except during the pandemic. Next up is Pontiac, Illinois, home of the Route 66 Hall of Fame and Museum, which was, of course, closed. But that's okay, there's still plenty to see here in town. In about a 3-block radius, there are 23 outdoor murals depicting the local history of Pontiac. The largest mural is the Route 66 shield found on the back of the museum. The bricks at its base are from the original Route 66 road surface running through the city. It is also the perfect backdrop for our Route 66 journey. 18 of the murals were painted by the Wall Dogs, a collection of sign painters and muralists who came to town in the summer of 2009. The more than 150 artists painted the entire set of 18 murals in just 4 days. What a sight that would have been to see. One of the most treasured items of the Hall of Fame is the school bus road yacht of the late Bob Waldmeyer. Bob was the Johnny Appleseed of Route 66's revival. He ran the Hackberry General Store, and his family runs the Cozy Dog Drive-In, both Route 66 icons. For decades, Bob drove the highway, drew whimsical sketches of what he saw, and sowed seeds of nostalgia that eventually blossomed into places like the Illinois Route 66 Hall of Fame Museum. And of course, being a VW guy, I couldn't pass up the chance at a photo op with a Route 66 love bug. We found an open campground right outside of Pontiac to camp for the night, the Livingston County 4-H Fairgrounds and Park. We had tried several in the area, but all were closed. Thankfully, we happened upon this place, and what a great choice it would turn out to be. We met a wonderful lady who hosts the site. She was very welcoming and even brought over some of her own wood for us to have a campfire. The fee for the night? A whopping $20. Hell of a bargain. It was at this point that I decided to attach the horns to the front of the Jeep so we could blend in as we continued our journey into the west. Oddly enough, we ended up not seeing any other vehicles with horns, not even in Texas. Fortunately, my disappointment was overcome by the compliments we received on them. After watching a resplendent sunset over an adjacent field, we settled in for the night with our campfire and had dinner. I rolled out the sunshade for some privacy in our sleeping quarters and climbed in. Chewy, get us out of here! We woke to a beautiful sunrise, cooked breakfast, and headed out for the day. The first stop of the day is at the McLean Depot train shop. This is the original railway depot that stood in central McLean on the old GM&O Alton Route tracks. It is also one of only 2 stations still standing in Illinois that witnessed the 1865 funeral train that carried President Lincoln's coffin back to Springfield for burial. It has been restored and is now a hobby shop, selling all sorts of model railway kits. Right down the road is the Hot Dog Muffler Man. He had his origins in the town of Cicero, Illinois, a few miles outside of Chicago on old Route 66. He stood at a drive-in restaurant named Bunyan's for nearly 40 years. He was moved here to Atlanta in 2003 by the Preservation Committee of the Illinois Route 66 Association after the drive-in closed. This right here is Main Street, USA. Slow pace, beautiful clean city, and locally owned businesses. A place where everyone knows everyone else's name. And a place where the train runs right through the middle of town. So I hope you're not in a hurry. We ended up at the Cozy Drive-In for lunch, the home of the original hot dog on a stick, dipped in batter and deep fried. Located on Route 66 since 1949, they're still using the same batter recipe that Ed Waldmeyer developed back in 1946. Unfortunately, we found it to be pretty bland. It may have been left over from 1946. The Gardner City Jail is the perfect fit for exactly one criminal and their partner in crime. While the village of Gardner now has a regular-sized jail, this was not always the case. This tiny jail was built in 1906 and has the barren lack of amenities to prove it. The jail is actually just one room divided in half by bars. The Stark cells have only a cot and a bucket for fluids, while the other half is a small guard section with a little desk and a wood-burning stove. It's now a popular Route 66 attraction where visitors can lock themselves up for a criminally kitschy photo op. The Polka Dot Diner is definitely an experience type of place, not just another burger and fry joint. From the rotating sign out front to the pop culture icons adorning the sides of the building, this was a step back in time. Unfortunately, it too was closed like many establishments of this type. The one up front looks totally realistic. I think it's an animatronic. I think it's moving. Ah! Across the street from the Polka Dot is a curious little zoo. The Braidwood Zoo is a cluster of cheery little animal sculptures by the late Jack Parker. He built them out of scrap metal and shredded plastic. Each was sponsored by a local business. A dinosaur set atop what used to be a Sinclair gas station opened in 1963. Sinclair used the dinosaur to impress on their customers that prehistoric resources were used in the company's products. If there's one thing Route 66 has loads of, it is old gas stations. And they are all very cool.
Welcome to Trey, Illinois, home of the historic Amber Butler Texaco Station. This 1932 structure is famous for being the last of the original Route 66 gasoline filling station.
Route 66, where service always comes with a smile. So that's that Trump train I keep hearing about. It's hard to believe. We're here driving into the sunset on Route 66. Who needs a fancy new highway anyhow? Step back into the past. It's 1955, and I'm driving with my best girl. Route 66 was replaced, moved, paved over the years. Some of the sections are really old. They practically just go through someone's farm field.
Where it says very close.
Does it say where it's closed? Oh, over there it's closed.
Well, it doesn't mean that that side's open.
That side doesn't have a road closed sign. Yep, no road closed sign on this side.
Big mistake. Oh, Ace is driving.
When driving by, you can't help but notice the giant pink elephant standing outside the Pink Elephant Antique Mall. In addition to the elephant are a myriad of other fiberglass attractions, including an original 60s Futura house, an assortment of smaller animals and items, a couple of muffler men, and a rare fiberglass giantess. The muffler men are a relatively common sight, but their counterpart, the Uniroyal girl, is much more rare. This one reportedly came from a mini golf in Virginia in the 80s, then Huber's Farm in Maryland, before being transported here to Livingston, Illinois in 2007, where she wears a Route 66 apron and entices you to come buy some ice cream at the Tasty Treat. Very cool. Next time, join us as we cross over the bridge into Missouri, straight into a group of working girls as we try to hit the Chain of Rocks Bridge in St. Louis. Thanks for coming along with us.